welcome to another episode of Your Right to Know, brought to you by the Fitchburg Republican City Committee. This evening, we have two very special guests, a constitutional attorney, KrisAnne Hall from Tampa, Florida, and Pastor Bryan Tomes, senior pastor of the Crossroads Community Church right here in Fitchburg. Would you please introduce yourselves to our audience?
Sure. My name is KrisAnne Hall. I'm a constitutional attorney. I am coming to you from Tampa, Florida, but I have a national nonprofit civil rights law firm where we work all over the country that was actually birthed out of the lockdown and the pandemics, helping people navigate their natural rights and understand their state and local their state and U.S. constitutions, and how the attempt to shut down businesses and churches really affected the rights of the people.
Wow. Well, Pastor?
Yeah, my name is Pastor Bryan Tomes. I pastor Crossroads Community Church in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. I've been there for about 18 years. And we're just here as a support to talk about all that took place in 2020 and however else I could be of help. So
it really was quite the infringement on basically everybody's rights. As I was saying on off camera, I myself joined into the fight during the 2020 debacle. As I sued our governor, who shut down the gun stores here in Massachusetts, when the federal government said that they were an essential business. And we were able to force them back open. But KrisAnne, so you're originally from Florida, and tomorrow you're giving a seminar in Fitchburg about our rights and our liberties under the U.S. Constitution. And your program is entitled Awake America. And it's a very interesting and provocative title. Do you believe that America and Americans are asleep?
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you believe in the last three years that we have seen a decline in the availability of the rights and liberties of the people? So if you say yes to that as an answer to that question, then the only real answer to your question is absolutely yes. Samuel Adams put it this way. He said, "No people will tamely surrender their liberties nor be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved." He said, on the contrary, when the people become universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink underneath their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders. And so when you ask if Americans are asleep, I think it's interesting to clarify that what's really asleep in America is the knowledge of our rights and the knowledge and understanding of not just simply the U.S. Constitution, but our state constitutions. So that's what we're going to be doing on Saturday. We're not going to be talking just about the U.S. Constitution. We're going to be talking about the Constitution of Massachusetts and the natural rights of the people, the duty of the people to not simply know their rights, but to also be actively involved in defending and protecting them.
One thing that you did say, and it was interesting, that you said that, when people are ignorant of the information, but you have an active media that is intentionally hiding facts and knowledge from the general public. I mean, you look at the Hunter Biden laptop, you look at Biden's connection with Hunter Biden with China. Then you got the Chinese, influence. And where did the coronavirus come from? Came from China. They tried to hide that for so long, and obviously they couldn't, hide it for ever. And it's slowly coming out.
$26 million in kickbacks.
Yeah.
Just 26 million.
But this pandemic, it just doesn't seem to be going away. It seems like people just are just constantly still thinking about it, even though, Massachusetts and the federal government had said, hey, pandemic is over now. You still have these people that just don't want to give it up. You still see people wearing masks. You still see, people like even the other day, as a city councilor, we had to vote on, vaccination clinics still, and still spending money on vaccination clinics. Well, they're trying to say, well, it's not just for coronavirus, it's also for the flu and whatnot, but yet we're still spending money on this COVID-19.
Yeah.
So do you guys still see, this issue, and how do we defeat this?
Well, you've addressed a number of topics, and as I can recall, let me deal with them one by one, right? So the media hiding truth and information is simply a symptom of the problem. And what we really need to understand here is that I will suggest to you that the media would not have the opportunity to hide things if the knowledge of the people concerning their rights, concerning their constitutions, were in the right place. What we really need to understand is that our problem is not with media disclosure. Our problem comes from the basic understanding of our rights, which comes from the fact that our schools and our education system have neglected to teach our rights consistently and accurately for a very long time. And you and I went to law school, and I will tell you that law schools don't even teach our rights properly. They don't teach our constitutions properly. They don't teach the proper roles of government and the proper application of our foundational documents properly. And because that foundational level of education has become corrupted for so very long, and I think a lot of people kind of think that that happened in the last few years, but I can take it back to the year 1833. That's when we stopped teaching accurately about the Constitution, its proper application, and the proper role of government. So you have a long-term foundation of the American people's lack of understanding and a teaching of misunderstanding about government, right? And so with a proper education, with a proper understanding within the people's knowledge of the natural rights and the proper role of government, there would not have been such a subdued response to the governors and local governments' lockdown decrees, and there would not have been such an easy acceptance to things that infringed on those rights. Because I would suggest to you that if the people had a very strong core understanding of their rights, the origin of their rights, and the limits of government within their constitutions, they would have questioned things like Fauci. They would have questioned things like government mandates and such. Because I believe liberty is the key, right? Liberty is the key. So you have the liberty to wear a mask if you don't want to. You have the liberty, if you want to or don't want to. You have the liberty to get a vaccination if you want to or you don't want to. The problem only becomes when government gets involved and mandates these things on the people.
Well, that goes to you, Pastor. You know, you operating the Crossroads Church. I know, Crossroads was in the news, as these evil people. They just want to spread the COVID-19 virus. What transpired at the church?
Basically, there was two waves that came through in 2020. There's the first wave that came through in March, and then the second wave that came through in October. So the first wave, the president got up and he just said, hey, remember it was the slow the spread. Let's slow the spread. I felt when I prayed in my spirit, I just said, it was 10 days to slow the spread, right? And so I felt like, in my witness, to partner with our president, because I felt like God put President Trump in that position, even as a King Cyrus, right? Remember in the Bible it said King Cyrus, he wasn't a Christian, not a Christian, but he wasn't, a Jew or one of God's chosen people. But, he was used by God, even though he was a pagan, to help God's children. So I felt like, I'm looking, Trump's in there, he's blasting away. He seemed to be very constitutional in his approach to and now we know that sometimes, there's a little snake in there too,
Right. Well,
but at the same time, I felt like, look, this is massive. People are getting sick. People are dying. And, the media will fool you. And so I decided, hey, we're gonna help slow the spread. We're gonna shut down for just a for 10 days. You know, it was one Sunday, then the next Sunday. So like the third Sunday, I said this is out the window. I'm not shutting another moment down. So we opened right back up, and then just kept growing, and people are just all over the place. About one single little mass decided to divide our whole country. Because that basically broke it up into two. You had the maskers and the non-maskers. You know what I mean? You had the those that that were adhering to the Fauciism or whatever, and then you had those that are like, this guy's a liar.
Well, I mean, it just seemed that was the intention of it all, to divide the country in order to be able to get one man out of office.
So here's what happened. So after the 2020, after like 3 weeks, we opened back up, 4 weeks or whatever, and then we just started having service, because the church had never shut down. The church, I'll never do it again because they're liars. You know what I mean? And plus, we are over virus. And like I said, I was just trying to partner with our president to help slow the spread. And then once that was out the window, that was it.
Yeah, it just seemed to keep going. It was
the carrot on the stick thing. You know what I mean? Just trying to lead.
That's why I say that it was designed for one purpose, and it was to get Trump out of office.
No, not that. They're trying to shut the church down too.
Yeah, let's just remember that the key here is about what is the level of government that's involved here, what is the purpose of government involved here. When it started, right, when the first word came out, be cautious, be aware, this is what's coming, it remained a choice. And if churches wanted to shut down in due caution, they had the liberty to do so. But they also retained the liberty to stay open. So there's no criticism of the cautious nature of how anybody is doing anything. The criticism comes when government itself steps in and says, you have to stay closed, but you're allowed to stay open. Constitutionally speaking, governments are expressly limited and expressly prohibited from making such arbitrary decisions. You stay open, you get to close, and then there are also certain avenues that preclude government from even sticking their noses in. When we talk about these rights, we cannot forget the Massachusetts Constitution, which specifically limits and defines the authority of the state of Massachusetts governance. And the Declaration of Rights is very clear. I mean, it's one sentence that you cannot infringe upon the rights of the conscience of the people, the religious operation, expression of the people. Cannot. That is not allowed by the Constitution, nor it is allowed by the consent of the people. And so I believe that if the people of Mass really had a knowledge and was taught the proper role of government, the proper application of the Constitution, that the people themselves would have never complied with such a draconian, unconstitutional exercise of authority by the governor or by their local council, city council, or
so they empowered the Department of Labor and Safety. They're like the Gestapo to carry out a bunk edict or order that the governor had put in place. So right after, once it was beyond the slow the spread thing, we just opened back up. Well, but then that led into a whole bunch of infringements. They kept constantly, you know what I mean, trying to get us, well, you can stay open, but you have to, have, people 6 feet, you have to separate. And you know what, I'm like getting overwhelmed because there was constantly contacting our office, and then people were reporting to us, they're open. And then all of a sudden, first we were non-essential, then we became essential. I mean, we were essential before they determined whether we were essential or not.
Right.
People need help.
But it just seems like there's a certain section of the public that were just sheep going to slaughter. They just believed everything, and they just followed the violation of their rights.
Let me say one thing before. So in October, remember, that was the first wave. So then they kept putting all that pressure. As soon as that second wave came through, then they felt like they had all this power to come in enforce this because we had a couple of cases. We had services, and we had a couple cases. Then they started attacking every case. As soon as that wave came to Fitchburg, they tried to say that we were you would have thought Crossroads Community Church was Wuhan. And I'm telling you, I'm getting calls from everybody, you know what I mean? There was the news media, I was getting death threats, I was getting, I at this point, the pressure from the U.S. government, not even that, the state of Massachusetts through the Department of Labor and Safety Standards, overreaching. We wanted to go back, and I had to get an attorney to help me know what we were able to do, because I'm just ready to open back up, and she's just like, wait. This is perfect. We can prove that they're infringing upon your rights. And we were getting ready for a massive lawsuit against the state of Massachusetts. And so she helped. She didn't come and contact them. She actually did that work through me. Because they were trying to violate not only my personal right, but our right as a church and so you can take it from there. But so once she got involved, once I understood my rights, there were so many things that they couldn't do because I knew what my right was, what our church's rights were, and then that was the end for them. I got a personal call from the executive director of the Department of Labor and Safety Standards apologizing to us for all of their overreaches, and it was right after that all the other churches got.
So what were specifically what were they saying to you that was putting you what?
They told us we couldn't open. They told us we couldn't have people sitting next to each other. They told us we had to, there's all these mandates. If we wanted to stay open, we had to do it their way. Mm-hmm. And that's not, they don't dictate what the church does and what the church doesn't do. And so we had to let them know that, because I think a lot of people that were working for them had no idea of their rights either, and our rights. And so they didn't want to violate our rights. And once we made them aware of it, I had one guy quit because he didn't know how to handle us. I had another guy, and it just took several weeks. And she was absolutely critical and so, I would say, priceless is the word I would use. Priceless. Because once you realize you're free and how to maintain your freedom, it's priceless. And we live in a free country, and you can see in California, this freedom's starting to go out the window, because even as far as California, they have no idea what they are capable of. You got people ransacking your businesses. It's just a matter of time before they start ransacking your homes.
And Massachusetts is not that far away,
no.
Let's face it.
No.
When you really start talking about the left controlling, the state, California, is clear. Massachusetts is right next to them in regards to just your rights mean nothing here in Massachusetts. Just look at your Second Amendment right. It's according to the current governor. It's an unfortunate right that's what you have. And she tries to limit it no matter what with her unconstitutional mandates and the limitations that they put on the Second Amendment right here in Massachusetts. We've already had a Supreme Court case that came down, the New York pistol and rifle versus Bryan, where suitability standard in Massachusetts is common, where the chief of police has there's a major problem here in Massachusetts, and this is why I invited her to come. This is why we're doing Awake America, because clearly, what was your take through the whole, October of 2021?
Well, what we have to understand as a people is that our constitutions are written with the specific knowledge that crises come and go, right? And the constitutions are written with that knowledge and understanding that with a crisis, emotions flare, they wane, knowledge comes, ignorance prevails, that sort of thing. So when you see the very proof of what we saw about how, this wave, this is how people thought, and this wave, this is how people thought. Our constitutions are written to be a specific standard to keep government limited in those waxing and waning periods. Our constitutions are written in such a way to protect us from arbitrary decisions. The very fact that the government was on one wing one day and the next wing the next day proves why the constitutions exist the way they did. And so what we found, and what you actually so well articulated, was that the people of Massachusetts, number one, didn't understand the sureness.
How many of the
their
business
rights.
owners you think had no idea of their right?
Business owners had no ideas, citizens had no ideas, the people working for government had no idea. And most of the time, now we operate in a very unique way, right? Because most of the time when you call a lawyer, lawyers want to sue and they want to get money and they want to file charges, and that's not how we work, right? Because my core philosophy is, as a teacher, and I believe that a lot of things can be avoided with mutual conversations,
like what we accomplished.
with what we accomplished by empowering people with knowledge. So what we do is we help a client help themselves. So I found that when a lawyer gets involved, everybody sort of lawyers up and nothing gets done. So what we did was we educated Crossroads, we educated Pastor Bryan on the rights of the church, the rights of the people, not just simply under the U.S. Constitution, but more relevantly under the Massachusetts Constitution. Because the Massachusetts Constitution is a supreme law of Massachusetts. The U.S. Constitution is a supreme law of the United States. And where the problems are solely located within the Massachusetts government, we have to have a greater tendency to go to the Massachusetts Constitution first rather than going to the U.S. Constitution. So what we did is we informed him and educated the church and the people about their rights. We helped them communicate those thoughts to the government from the pastor, from the church, which served to give an opportunity for the exchange of understanding, which is why, as you said, some of the people who work for government were like, whoa, wait, I didn't know this.
Once we showed how that, it was unconstitutional and they had no purpose, or they couldn't even infringe those upon us, then they would move. What they would do is, remember, they kept moving the goalposts. They moved the goalposts. They constantly moved the goalposts.
Well, that was the question.
It's like they're making up the rules as we went.
Were they really ignorant about our rights, or did they just not care?
Completely ignorant.
Well, I think you're talking about different levels, right? I think
we kept going up.
At the local levels, at the boots on the ground level and the local community, and sometimes even at the state agency level, they don't know. I mean, we saw this actually happen in California many years ago when the Border Patrol was being told by the U.S. government that they had to forcibly remove protesters in California who were protesting the busing, the federal government's busing of illegal immigrants into their towns. And so what we did for those people is we simply drew up a flyer about the right to peaceably assemble, the right to protest, the right to freedom of speech. And we sent those flyers to the people who were protesting, who then handed them to the Border Patrol agents. And at that time, the Border Patrol agents received those flyers, and they were like, whoa, wait, we weren't taught this. We didn't know that these were the people's rights and that our authority is limited in this way. And what we found was that the Border Patrol agents backed down. They stepped aside and let the protests continue. That's exactly what we found here at the local level, when the local government agents and people who work for the local government, who I believe do their job because they want to serve the people, they want to be a service in community, when they got informed about the Constitution and the limits of government and the rights of the people, they said, whoa, wait a minute, we need to really look into that. Now, if you move up the chain and you get to the level of the Attorney General and the governor and people in higher levels of government, I would say what you're dealing with now is exactly what you're talking about. A willful disregard for the limits of government. Mm-hmm. And that's why the approach we take at the local level is so important. because it gives the opportunity for amicable resolution where the church is not setting up a hostile relationship with government forever to come. Everybody was able to come together with the same knowledge and same understanding. And Crossroads has a long reputation of being a huge service in this community, and this way we were able to preserve and actually
we had to move
encourage
beyond the local mandate. So we, with the health officials here, I mean, I got a great relationship with Stephen Curry, and he just said his hands are tied up. You know what I mean? So then it had to go to the next level, and then the next level, and even the mayor, tried to defend and help. And his hands were tied because of the infringement. They didn't even have the right to come in here and deem anything in this community.
Right.
But, again, not understanding completely our rights, you'll get pushed around. You stop getting pushed around when you say you're not going to push me around because you have no authority to push me around. And if you do so, you're going to find out really quickly how little authority you actually have over me.
And that's why what we're doing at Crossroads tomorrow is so important.
Huge.
Because people have to have this personal knowledge.
So why don't we give the information to the viewing public? I mean, of course, we're doing it the day before, but tell us what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing tomorrow.
Well, go ahead and you can tell them where
tomorrow
and when.
we're running a program called Awake America. People need to understand. I mean, we've already got over 100 and something people, almost 200 people registered for this event. Tomorrow's going to be really big. It's for freedom. People need to understand that this is a free country. You have rights as a citizen. This isn't a church thing as much as it is a freedom thing.
Right.
And the church is all about freedom. I'm a free person because of the Jesus Christ set me free. And he who the Son sets free, free indeed.
So what time and where
we're going to be at the church. I think it's 11 a.m. tomorrow. 11 o'clock at Crossroads Community Church at 839 Ashby State Road. We're going to have light refreshments and stuff like that. So.
And is this going to be recorded and put on the Crossroads website in case people who want to go can't make it tomorrow?
Well, everything that we're teaching is available on our website at libertyfirstsociety.com. So we have an education program that covers history of the Constitution, the application of the Constitution, knowing your rights and acting. And what we're doing tomorrow is not just simply teaching about rights, but we're actually giving people the information they need to become actively defending their rights.
Excellent. Well, we're coming to an end of our show. I want to thank you both.
Thank you.
You're an amazing person, and thank you for what you do. And thank you very much, Pastor. And we also want to thank our viewing audience for watching Your Right to Know and sitting with the FRCC. As we leave you, we want you to remember that your local city, town Republican committee is the only grassroots organization that supports and holds dear your liberty, your constitutional rights, and your conservative values. We encourage you to join us. Why? Because to us, GOP stands for growth, opportunity, and prosperity for all, and because we always stand for freedom. Good night.
America, we stand for freedom. So let us all our values that preserves our rights and goes forth in power and might, that reflects our values and preserves our rights and goes forth in power and might.